A major winter storm is unfolding for many across the United States, but that is not the one we are focused on today. More snow and more ice are on the way, and we will discuss who is affected in this video. Welcome everyone. Happy Saturday to you. It is November 29th, and we are certainly ending the month in a very snowy way for many of us. I believe December is going to continue that trend as I am tracking another winter storm heading our way. When you wake up tomorrow morning, as I mentioned, areas in the mountains of North Carolina, the northern mountains, and the highest elevations like Mount Mitchell and up into southwestern Virginia and West Virginia could definitely experience some icy conditions as some cold air remains in place. If you are new to our channel, I want to extend a warm welcome. If you have a moment, please consider liking the video and subscribing. It is completely free, and it simply helps me know that you find these updates useful, and I always enjoy hearing what you are seeing in your own backyard. Now, let us take a look at the forecast right here beside me. This is the latest information from our European computer model, and it is showing a very active pattern. You can see a great deal of atmospheric energy, several storm systems, and plenty of cold air nearby. For some, this will mean snow, while for others, it may be a very close call, but that could certainly trend toward a snowier and icier scenario as we receive more data. But in any case, you can see quite an active pattern looks to unfold over the next 10 days, according to that particular model. Now, as for the situation right now, we already have winter storm warnings highlighted here in pink over much of Iowa, extending through northern Illinois, northern Indiana, and even into southern Michigan and southern Wisconsin, which are receiving quite heavy snow today. We also have some ice out there for others, creating some very challenging conditions. In addition, new winter weather advisories have been issued for the Appalachian chain from near Asheville, North Carolina, northbound through Watauga and Avery counties, then up into southwestern Virginia, and portions of West Virginia, where we could see some icing as early as overnight tonight and into early tomorrow morning. I am also expecting more winter weather advisories and potentially even winter storm watches to be issued for portions of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast later today and into tomorrow. So please be aware that this may be on the horizon, perhaps even by the time you are watching this video. We are certainly keeping a close watch on this developing situation. The snow is certainly coming down quite heavily for many of us. Again, if you are in a part of the country that is receiving snow right now, please let me know how much you have accumulated because it has been a very snowy day in Des Moines, Davenport, and Chicago. You know, Chicago did not see much snow last winter, but this time around it is a very different story. The snow is quite intense, as I like to put it. The same is true for Springfield, Illinois. Many people in this region are seeing heavy snowfall. The same applies to northern Indiana and much of southern Wisconsin, with Minneapolis also seeing snow. A lot of that snow is now moving into Michigan with rain to the south of it. But for those of you in portions of the Northeast, you are next in line for some of this snow. Let us discuss who will see it and exactly how much. We can answer that question by examining the latest model data. For many folks in the Northeast, this current storm is really just the appetizer for the next significant storm that I am tracking for early next week. Nevertheless, some of you will still receive snow from this first system. Let us review the timing for you starting with tonight. This is for the evening hours when many of you are likely watching. The snow is still falling steadily for a lot of us. As we move later into the overnight hours approaching midnight, it will begin to taper off in Iowa and Minnesota. However, the snow will continue at a good clip in parts of Michigan, the northern half of Ohio, and areas around Erie, Pennsylvania, Buffalo, and the Finger Lakes, which will get some snow overnight tonight. Looking ahead to when you wake up tomorrow morning, as I mentioned, areas in the mountains of North Carolina, specifically the northern mountains, and the highest elevations like Mount Mitchell, and on into southwestern Virginia and West Virginia, could certainly experience some icy conditions. This is due to some of the colder air that remains in place in that region. I can tell you it is quite chilly here in the upstate of South Carolina, where I am still at home for now, but starting tomorrow I will be back in my usual studio. So please keep that in mind as well. But it is chilly out there, and some of that leftover cold air becomes trapped, a phenomenon we call cold air damming. We are absolutely going to see some ice overnight and into early tomorrow in those higher elevations of North Carolina and into the Virginias. As for the Northeast, it will be mainly a rain event for places like Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, and really along the entire Interstate 95 corridor. But by the time we are heading out the door tomorrow, you will notice some wintry weather in upstate New York, northern Vermont, New Hampshire, and into upstate Maine. I am not entirely sure if you call that area upstate Maine, so if you live up near the Canadian border in Maine, please let me know if you have a special name for your region. I know the coastal sections are called the Down East areas, but I am not familiar with the name for the northern part of Maine. So I would welcome a friendly geography lesson in the comments if you are so inclined. By tomorrow afternoon, snow will still be falling at times. It will probably be on and off for many folks in the interior of the Northeast. Some lake effect snow on the backside of this low pressure system will bring even more accumulating snowfall to portions of western Michigan and the Upper Peninsula. It could even sneak down into northern Indiana. And it will be a showery, cold, and raw day along Interstate 95 from Boston all the way down to Connecticut and Rhode Island. That includes Long Island and even down into New Jersey, Philadelphia, and the Delmarva Peninsula, but by the time we get into Sunday overnight and look toward your Monday, things will begin to clear out. But our attention then turns to the next storm brewing, and that one is going to help bring the snowline farther south and east, including some rather major cities. Let us go ahead and provide the snowfall totals for the next 48 hours, and then we will break down that next threat that is really going to increase the totals for some. Here are the snowfall totals to come from our current storm system. And please remember this covers tonight, and for some, through tomorrow as well. I will also add that this is as of noon this afternoon. So please subtract whatever snow you have already received from these totals. Still, these are some impressive amounts. We could see upwards of double-digit accumulations here in portions of the shorelines through Wisconsin and Michigan. I believe northern Indiana, northwestern Ohio, and south-central Michigan will still see a good half a foot or more, and up towards Chicago as well. Many of you will likely see another 3 to 5 inches or so. It truly is a winter wonderland out there, folks. It is quite a sight to see some of the pictures on social media. You are welcome to tag me on social media with your pictures, and I would be happy to share your photo. You can find me on Twitter, also known as X, and Facebook. Feel free to tag me, and I will be sure to acknowledge your post. This has been a very nice early season winter storm for much of the Midwest, and the forecast seems to have gone quite well as planned. For the Northeast, as I said, I am not expecting much of anything along the Interstate 95 corridor. Now, at the beginning of the event, could we see a little bit of sleet or some very quick snow? It is possible, but any accumulation will likely be confined to the interior of the Northeast. At least that is the case with this storm. The next one will be a completely different story, and again, I will show you that in just a moment. But I believe the higher terrain in the Tug Hill Plateau could receive half a foot or more, and the higher terrain of Vermont and New Hampshire could see from half a foot to a foot. For the lower elevations, we are looking at 1 to 3 inches, with some 3 to 5 inch totals sprinkled in there. But nonetheless, it is still a wintry event that we will continue to track. Now, how about the ice? I am not seeing a tremendous amount of ice, so I do not believe this will be a major travel concern for the Mid-Atlantic. However, the higher terrain here of West Virginia, southwestern Virginia, and into the mountains of North Carolina will be a different matter. This is especially true north of Interstate 40. You could see a glaze of up to 1/10 of an inch. Isolated spots could see a 1/4 of an inch, but I am not expecting widespread power outages or travel concerns. Still, please take it easy on the roads tomorrow morning. I know we have a lot of viewers in this part of the country, so please be mindful. It will be a cold rain elsewhere in places like Charlotte and Raleigh. It will just be a good old-fashioned nice cold drizzle and light rain at times. Alright, that covers the current storm. Now for the next one, which is another bit of a challenge to forecast. And I also have my eye on another potential storm about a week from now that could track even farther south than this next one. Let us go ahead and break it all down for you. Let us start by talking about the setup for this next system. We have seen some trends today pointing farther to the south and east, with some of the data indicating that more people in highly populated areas could receive some snowfall. Let us discuss why this is happening. By the time we get to tomorrow afternoon, which is Sunday, November 30th at 21 Z, that is the afternoon and evening time frame for us, we have a developing situation. We have a very clear connection shown here in blue to Arctic air up in the polar sections of Canada. That cold air is going to continue to work its way down into the northeastern United States. This is important for 2 reasons. First, it brings the cold air necessary for winter weather, assuming you enjoy winter weather, which I certainly do. Second, it is going to help suppress the storm's track even more. So that is going to help push that rain-snow line closer to the coast. That is the trend we have seen in some of the data that is beginning to unfold today. As that is happening, a new trough, which is a new weather system, will begin to develop. This indicates another significant push of Arctic air moving southbound, and along the edge of that, a piece of energy will develop around this trough. A little short wave embedded in that cold air is going to ride that boundary and will likely produce a band of wintry precipitation. I believe someone could receive half a foot to a foot of snow out of this one. And again, this could be in some highly populated areas that have not necessarily seen a lot of snow so far this winter. Now, as for exactly who, we will discuss that in just a moment. But that is the general setup in the upper levels of the atmosphere, which we can see with our 500 millibar height anomaly map. You can also see it on our vorticity map. This is another excellent tool to use for a setup like this when we are trying to determine exactly where that rain-snow line will be. Here's the next storm by Monday afternoon. You can see we have this trough developing, and with it, a bit of vorticity embedded along it. Now, I have mentioned this before, but it is important to reiterate. When we see these brighter colors moving across the Rocky Mountains this time of year, something important happens. As the air moves down the eastern slope of the mountains, it helps to stretch the atmospheric spin, which greatly facilitates the formation of a low-pressure system. This occurs for several meteorological reasons, but the important takeaway is that it helps form low pressure. Then the trough we see in the upper levels of the atmosphere will continue to fuel that low-pressure system. As you can see, the general path of this trough creates upper-level lift directly over the low. This dynamic will steer the system right through the Ohio Valley and more broadly through the southeast. The upper-level support will travel through the Ohio Valley, and eventually that pocket of energy is expected to settle right along the northeast coastline. It is at that point that this storm will likely intensify and produce higher snowfall amounts. This will primarily affect the northeast. The Ohio Valley will see less impact because the upper-level support will not be perfectly aligned with the surface low. However, once the system reaches the northeast, it is expected to strengthen considerably and could become a significant snowstorm for some communities. Now that we understand the upper-level pattern, allow me to show you the details. We will use one of our high-resolution models, and then we will discuss potential accumulations for both snow and ice. Here we are, you can see the storm taking shape. This is at 7 a.m. on Monday, which is 12 Z in Coordinated Universal Time. A band of snow is beginning to develop over Kansas. Now, one new development we are watching in the models is worth noting. We are seeing trends that bring the system a bit farther south today. This could mean some wintry weather may reach as far south as Arkansas. It is certainly possible that Little Rock could experience some icing from this system. However, I do expect a definitive band of snow to move into Kansas and Missouri during your Monday morning and into the afternoon. The low-pressure center itself is organizing down over the Gulf of Mexico, but there is enough lift spreading northward to create what we in meteorology call an overrunning event. This will result in a band of snow moving into Illinois, Indiana, and Missouri. Now, this will not be as intense as today's storm for those in that area, but we will see that line of winter weather shift farther south. Consequently, it is quite possible that locations in the Ozarks could see some winter weather from this system. Then, as we move into the overnight hours on Monday, right around midnight, you can see the low pressure continues to strengthen. This produces a solid band of snow stretching through Ohio, Indiana, and southern Michigan, while Kentucky remains a transition zone. I expect that areas such as Louisville will see some snow with the ice line likely setting up just to the south of there. Farther south toward Tennessee, precipitation will probably be all rain. We must also watch for the potential for more ice in the mountains of the mid-Atlantic, including West Virginia, and potentially the mountains of North Carolina, which could see another icing event. This activity would occur overnight Monday into your Tuesday. By Tuesday morning, the situation evolves. Now, this particular model, the RJ model, is a bit farther south than others, but I am showing it because this has been the consistent trend today. It indicates a start with a wintry mix in Washington, D.C., potentially reaching Baltimore, with Philadelphia experiencing some icy conditions. It appears to be all snow for Scranton. The same holds true for Harrisburg State College and much of Pennsylvania outside of Philadelphia, which all look to receive a good amount of snow. It will be mostly rain for the Delmarva Peninsula, and also for Charlotte, Greenville, Spartanburg, and Atlanta, as this is not their storm system. As we continue, a significant band of snow develops over much of upstate New York and into the Hudson Valley. This snow extends into Connecticut, western Massachusetts, all of Vermont, and all of New Hampshire, including nearly all of Maine as well. According to this model run, it appears to be an all-snow event for these areas by your Tuesday morning. We will continue to monitor any shifts in that rain-snow line, but the current outlook is consistent. Now for Philadelphia, I do believe it could begin as winter weather. Then I expect a changeover to rain there by Tuesday later in the morning or into the afternoon. New York City will likely experience the same scenario, starting with some mixed precipitation before changing to all rain. A city like Boston will be right on that dividing line through Tuesday morning and afternoon. Much like the other coastal cities, it could begin with a mix of winter weather, and then perhaps transition to mostly rain. For western Massachusetts, however, I believe this will be an excellent snow event. I also expect much of northern Connecticut to see a very beneficial snowfall. As the day progresses on Tuesday, the rain line will attempt to push northward due to warm air moving into the region, but it should remain all snow for many. This includes western Massachusetts into Vermont, New Hampshire, and much of Maine. Then, on the backside of the system, it may even try to change back to snow as the storm departs. It is important to remember that the low pressure is not very well organized as we begin on Monday afternoon. But then as we move through Tuesday afternoon, you will see that upper level support begin to energize the system, and that low pressure system will really begin to intensify. Therefore, in the areas that do receive snow, it could fall quite heavily at times, leading to the potential for higher accumulation totals. This will also likely be a very wet, heavy snow, which could lead to concerns about power outages. And of course, if the event begins with ice that presents its own set of challenges, now that is just one computer model and one possible outcome. Let me show you some ensemble data which will give us a better idea of who has the highest probability of seeing snow, as a single model run does not provide the complete picture. Let us now examine some of this ensemble data, which I believe is a more reliable tool at this stage, when we are forecasting this far in advance. Regarding the Ohio Valley, I do anticipate a good band of snow. You can see here how the pattern begins to establish itself by Tuesday. There is a strong signal for perhaps a couple of inches of snow in Kansas City, and the same is true for St. Louis. I also believe that portions of Kentucky could receive some snow from this system. I do not expect this to be a major winter storm for this region. It will likely meet the criteria for a winter weather advisory. We could certainly see some travel impacts to be sure, but it will be nothing compared to what many are seeing today with potential double-digit snowfall. I am just not seeing that potential with this setup due to the lack of strong upper-level support over the Ohio Valley, but nonetheless, it will be a quick-hitting event. But at the very least, it will be a brief period of snow for some nice early season event. Now, what about the trend over time? This next map is a bit different. What I just showed you was the most recent run of our European ensembles. This map, however, shows the trend. This is from a couple of model runs ago, and you can see where the focus for the heaviest snow is located. Forgive me. Let me go back one step. My apologies. We will get this right. Let us see. All right. This is from a couple of runs ago. Then, as I advance it forward to a newer run, and again, we can observe the changes. Let me back it up once more, and then we will step through it. What is important to note is that we are certainly seeing some consistency in the forecast. However, some of the latest runs have slightly decreased the snowfall totals while also shifting the entire system a little farther to the south. This is something to keep in mind for both the Ohio Valley and the Northeast. As I said, I believe this system has significant potential. This is a similar type of map, and you can see the storm signal appearing right around Tuesday. That is likely to be the day with the most significant impacts. The European ensemble members, however, are showing a solution that is a good bit farther south and east than some of the other data I just presented. This ensemble indicates a substantial burst of snow for northern New Jersey, the entire state of Connecticut, all of Rhode Island, and all of Massachusetts. It even suggests nearly half a foot of snow is possible for Boston. Now, that may be a bit of an overestimation, but it is certainly not an impossible scenario. This solution also attempts to bring snow down to Philadelphia with about a 2-inch average and about an inch or two into Baltimore and Washington, D.C. I do believe this is likely overstating the potential for these southern cities. I think it is more likely to be a quick burst of snow at the beginning of the event. Could there be an inch of accumulation from snow, sleet, and ice before a changeover to rain? Yes, I can definitely envision a scenario like that. But where I have more confidence in this model is farther north in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. I do expect a heavier band of snow in that direction. And if the European model is correct, then some major population centers like Boston and Providence, and even Hartford could be in for a significant snowstorm. So what does the trend look like? Well, let's go back a couple of model runs, and I believe you can see this southward and eastward shift even more clearly on the European data. Here is a run from earlier. Now a newer one and newer still. As I advance it, you can see how that trend toward the south and east begins to emerge. Let me go further back in time, and then I will move it forward for you. And indeed, you can see that it is a very subtle change, but there is a definite shift farther to the south and east. This could be very good news for snow lovers in places like northern New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. The same can be said for southern New Hampshire and Vermont. The outlook there is looking quite favorable as well. It is shaping up to be a nice early December winter storm for some who have been waiting for snow. I assure you, I have been reading your comments and have certainly seen them. All right, let us move on. We have another potential storm to watch after this one, and we also need to address the icing potential with this current system. Let us track both of those threats. We will use the same tool here, the European ensembles, which does show a signal for some icing down in the Carolinas. To be specific, this would be in the mountains of the Carolinas and the mountains of the Virginias. I do not expect any ice in Charlotte, Greenville, Raleigh, Spartanburg, or Atlanta. For those locations, I anticipate it will simply be a cold rain once again. But it would not be surprising to see some icing in the higher terrain of the Appalachian Mountains. There is also a slight signal for ice in Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., and Baltimore. As I mentioned, the event there could begin with a quick burst of sleet or freezing rain before changing over to plain rainfall early next week. After that system moves through, we will look ahead to the next. I am also keeping a close watch on another potential storm system further down the road. I will not go into great detail on this one just yet, as we first need to get through the system arriving on Monday and Tuesday. However, there is a signal for something to develop around a week from now between the 5th and 7th of December. And if you have noticed, the recent trend has been for one storm to track to the north, with the next one a little farther south, and the next one even farther south than that. As this pattern continues, it brings more and more people into the path of potential winter weather hazards in the forecast. I do see another potential threat developing. Following the Monday and Tuesday system, which I have already shown you another trough, is expected to move in. That is the system bringing snow to areas of the Northeast and the Ohio Valley. Once that system moves out, we will be watching what develops next. We have another area of low pressure forming out in the Rockies, which we refer to as a Baja low. At the same time, a significant push of Arctic air is beginning to show up and it will start to move southward. The question will then become first, where and how far south does this cold air travel as it moves into the Northeast? And second, what will this Baja low do? Does it get pushed out into the southeast? Do the two systems combine? Or does that Baja low gather some other energy from the southern stream and send it across the country? Well, that is what some of our forecast data has suggested for that time frame about a week or so from now. Again, this is not a guaranteed forecast, and we are not predicting a major snowstorm. But it is certainly another developing situation to monitor down the road. You can see it here on the vorticity map where the Baja low is very well defined. What it does is begin to draw up some energy over Texas, and the southern stream of the jet becomes more active. When you combine that with a push of cold air farther to the north, it is absolutely something we need to watch. You can observe how it gathers some of that energy right there. By the time we get to this point about a week from now, you have a great deal of energy in the northern stream and a great deal of energy in the southern stream. The main question is, will the two connect? The European ensemble models are showing that there is at least a potential for that to happen. Here we go. This is for next Thursday after the current storm. This is after the storm early next week. You can see higher snowfall chances, which is the chance of accumulating snow within a 24-hour period out in the Four Corners region, and then once again it moves up into the Ohio Valley. There are even some chances showing up down into the foothills of North Carolina and Virginia. It looks to be a significant potential here through Indiana and Ohio based on the current data. And please take a look at this. That is a very strong signal once again for the Northeast. New York City already has a 50 to 60% chance of snow. Philadelphia is also showing a 50 to 60% chance. There are very good chances for Boston, Vermont, and New Hampshire. We are also starting to see higher chances down into the Washington, D.C. and Baltimore areas. So the theme is continuing, folks, and I have been forecasting this pattern for 2 weeks now. The pattern suggested we would start farther north with the snow, and we have done that today with snow falling across the Midwest. Then on Monday and Tuesday, we will start to move that storm track farther south. New places like Boston and perhaps Hartford and Providence may get in on the snow. Then a week from now, it is possible we move it even farther south. Perhaps Philadelphia, New York City, Washington, D.C., and Baltimore will see some activity. It is even possible that by the middle of the month, we could be looking at a snowstorm for the southeast. Obviously, time will tell, and nothing is set in stone just yet. The final thing I will leave you with is the same time frame, but looking at freezing rain, and you can see a signal there as well. About a week from now, there is a strong cold air damming signal for the Carolinas and some potential for icing showing up even into the Ozarks. So it is definitely a time frame to watch, and I will be monitoring it closely for you. All right, that is all the information I have for you folks on this wonderful Saturday. I will be back home tomorrow to record a video with my normal studio setup, and I'm also looking at another live stream tomorrow night with BGWX. I will arrange all the details for that and share them once they are finalized. We will be breaking down all of the active weather ahead. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Please stay safe. Enjoy the snow if you are in an area that is receiving it. I would love to hear how much you have gotten, so please let me know in the comments. I will see you all next time.